in Greenwich.
If you're in China,
yeah.
It's been New Year since this morning.
And just past the UK, so Happy New Year over there, guys.
Cheers, everybody.
Well, that's good.
That is amazing.
Oh my God, it's the best bourbon I've ever had.
You're welcome.
Wow.
New Year's gift right there.
All right, you guys, make sure we're rolling and make sure we're live right now. It's
People say it's alive.
It's alive. Let's play the intro, shall we? All right.
Yeah.
What's going on, everybody? So, 2016 is going to be a much better year, I think, for us. 2015 was a year of flux and insanity.
I don't know. 2015 was kind of an odd year.
It was. So things have changed a lot, and a lot of that is thanks to you guys. So thank you guys very much for all your support. And just know that things are going to get quite a bit different in 2016. There's some previews there for things to come in 2016 as well. So, Wendell, you have a giveaway, ASRock. We're going to go start off with a giveaway for all kinds of ASRock things. So, Wendell, what do you got here?
So this is the ASRock H2R. There's a forum thread on the forum. By the way, if Gmail flags emails from the forum as spam, it goes into your spam folder. I don't know why that is. Damn you, Google.
Google hates us.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's a conspiracy.
But you get the messages. It's just in your spam folder. So if you sign up and you like the post, you're going to be entered into a giveaway. ASRock is actually the ones giving these away. They're going to be the ones that mail them to you. We're just going to help them pick some winners, but it's a little different. This is the H2R. It's a travel router. It's a Miracast adapter and a travel router. It's a 2x2, which is, it's got one WAN port and then it gives you wireless, but it also is a Miracast adapter, meaning that it's like the wireless display standard that Intel has. And so they want market research. They want to know basically what people think about this in general. And so we want your honest review because we don't care. Well, I mean, we do care a little bit, but we care in that we want your honest review. We want to know what you think of this because this is sort of a different thing for ASRock to do. And so we thought it would be fun to do a giveaway. They're giving away a bunch of these. And by a bunch, I mean, we're going to probably be giving a bunch of these away for the next 6 to 8 weeks. And then if you get one of these, if you write a little review or you do a little video review and you link to it on the forum, then you're in the running to win one of 2 G10s. Now, one G10 will be new in the box. The other one will have my fingerprints all over it because this thing is a fingerprint magnet. I don't know if you can see this in the light here, but
we agreed to saliva. Really I thought we did agree to saliva.
Okay, well, it'll have my fingerprints and saliva all over it. So there you go. It's ready to go. I don't know.
I don't know why ASRock wanted that. They requested
well,
it.
I mean, I can't. I've taken this thing apart. I've abused it. I've run it. I've run probably about 500 gigabytes of wireless traffic through it because there are some routers we've tested that when you run 500 gigabytes of data through it, it melts the antennas, which is probably not a good thing. But that's a 4x4. It's a 4x4 configuration in the big router, and it's a 2x2 configuration in the little router. The little travel router is sort of interesting. I've used it with my Surface Book. It works really well as a Miracast adapter. So yeah, there's that going on. We just wanted to announce it. There's a thread in the forum. So just like that at some point. You've got plenty of time. You don't have to all do it at once. The next 6 to 8 weeks.
Right now.
It's going to be one entry per person that likes that. So
I want to see comments starting to show up on that thread.
They're already showing up. Check that out. We've already got some comments, Wendell. They're already popping in there. So That is freaking cool.
Yeah.
All right. This is the best bourbon I've ever had. Well, I mentioned this just so you guys can know.
I found this in a random shop when I was
Go get
walking
it.
around. It's Jefferson's Ocean Aged at Sea.
Holy
Basically,
crap,
it's
good.
a Jefferson bourbon, as the brand is Jefferson, and it's they found the same thing that King's Ransom found, is that you take the bourbon once it's aged and stuck it in some boats, and then it crosses the equator 5 times, goes to 5 continents, and it sits in the ballast of the boat and just kind of gets rocked and cooled and warmed up as it travels between the
There's
waters.
not even
and-
a slight edge to it. Oh my God, that's ridiculous.
I'm there's very few bourbons that you and I have tried that I'm like, I like this one. This one is phenomenal.
All right, let's get down to what's going on. Let's talk about everything that happened in 2015 right now. We can cover everything in about 5 minutes, I think.
You just hit the scroll button and start going.
This year in science.futurism.com, they did an amazing job on this. They put together a list of all the scientific breakthroughs, discoveries, and just a general, list of progress that we've been making this year.
And they start, of course, with Skynet.
Yeah, look at all the robots here. But I think you guys should go. We talked about most of these things before in the past. We've talked about almost all of them. But Wendell, let's have you start off and just think, what do you think was the most interesting thing in 2015? And I know it's going to be hard to name just one thing, but go ahead. One thing.
No, I
that
can
you
totally
you
name
think.
just one thing. Well, actually,
Go
there's a
for
whole
it.
bunch of really awesome things. What you should do is you should just queue up the entire year's episodes of us and just go to sleep to that and wake up to it again. And then about a week later, it'll still be us because Jesus Christ, we always do this. It's not good.
And listen, guys, I'm sorry if you hate the world at the end of that. We've also decided to be very cynical, but less negative in 2016.
If you played all of them, that would be
We get
50
angrier and angrier.
Including this one, you'd have about 52 hours of the tech. So if you played them back to back to back to back to back, actually it's probably closer to 60. So yeah, 3 days. Just set aside 3 days to watch all of them in a marathon run, get a lot of caffeine, and go. Not right now. Wait till we're done.
They're going to run out of napkins.
My favorite article was when you guys were in China, which you covered, but you didn't mention the name. And that was they finally got the new fusion reactor online. It's the
One in Germany,
Wendelstein
right?
7X. Yes, it's the one that was designed by a computer basically and took 10 years to build. It's one of the most complex engineering things that mankind has undertook. It was ludicrously over budget and ludicrously complex, but it has promise of being the first sort of functioning and energy net flow positive fusion reactor. Because, I mean, honestly, who doesn't have a fusion reactor in their basement, a Farnsworth fuser? But that takes more energy going into it than coming out of it. And so it's not terribly useful other than to say, oh, I've got a Farnsworth fuser in my basement. Do you have a
come
Farnsworth
check this
fuser
out.
in your basement? It's like,
Yeah.
oh, look, purple light. But, yeah, the Wendelstein 7X is online and fully operational. And I like that story just
They're a bit
because
ahead
it's
of
funny.
Pratt and Whitney have been trying to do this for a long time, and I hadn't even heard about the Wendelstein stuff until we talked about that article, and I was like, oh, well, that's interesting. So, for me, I think CRISPR is one of the biggest things. I think CRISPR was maybe the end of 2014, but it really started to come into the limelight, I guess, in 2015. And CRISPR is going to allow scientists to go in and mess with the DNA. It's almost like a coding language for DNA. You can go in and change little bits and pieces. And as they learn how to use this over the next few years, I mean, there's really no limit. They can be like, hey, you guys want to make some corn on the cob with wings? Because everything has to have corn in it. That's the only rule, is everything must be corn.
I like peanuts.
Peanuts.
This is how we
Yeah,
get
but you
Meyer
can't-
alerts, guys.
You can't make gasoline out of peanuts. You can't make, well, you probably
Yes,
could.
you can make peanut.
There's not a peanut lobby that will fund
That's
you
exactly
making
it.
gasoline out of
but the peanut oil is what the diesel engine was originally designed to run on.
I think I've had enough from
know
the
what-
peanut gallery over here.
Yeah, I know.
You know
So,
what the really
peanuts.
horrifying thing about that is, though? That a lot of people that farm
true.
peanuts take the peanuts, extract the peanut oil, and replace the peanut oil with vegetable oil before selling the peanuts.
Why would you do such a thing?
Because peanut oil will sell for a lot of money on its own in a bottle. You put the peanut oil in a bottle, replace the peanut oil with vegetable oil, especially hydrogenated vegetable oil, because it'll make it nice and thick, just like you like it, nice and thick.
I don't like peanut butter anymore. You're making me cry, guys. I'm just going to buy. You can't even buy raw peanuts. And
No, you just get the regular. The ingredients.
I'm going to have to become a peanut farmer.
When you go to the store and buy peanut butter, the ingredients should say peanuts. It should not say hydrogenated soybean oil and butt floss and a whole bunch of other weird things in there.
But the butt floss is the best.
I know. I always wear it when I'm eating peanut butter. What are we talking about? We've already ruined the
Happy
episode.
New Year.
2016 is going to be awful.
Yes, it is. No, it's going to be fantastic. It's going to be absolutely fantastic. No, yeah, you mentioned the Vendelstein. You're talking about CRISPR. Other than Skynet, we found some really cool things in space. And
Yeah, we did. Some planets that may or may not be Earth-like.
some of them are disputed. Some of them are, still out there, maybe. Life planets. There are only 14. This is one of the things I actually thought it was really funny when I was reading through this, was that I think the closest one is like 39 light years away, which means that we're seeing something right now that if it is actually life viable, we're now seeing it from 40 years ago. Or the ones that are like 1,400 light years away. We're like, yay, we've discovered a planet that may not be there because it's 1,400 light years away. And 1,400 years, a lot can happen in 1,400 years. I mean, look what we've done to this planet in 1,400 years. Anyway.
It's mostly the last 200,
But still, 1,400.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Other than that, we were just running around in robes killing each other, or whatever we were wearing back when.
We should probably
Well,
do
the
that
thing that
sometime.
I'll
Anyway.
say with that is that we got a satellite going in orbit that is looking for a specific band of infrared radiation that doesn't really occur very much in nature, and it would be a sign of like civilizations like ours emit a ton of infrared radiation in that spectrum. And so it's looked through about 100,000 galaxies so far, and it hasn't found any galaxies that have a significant amount of that output of infrared radiation. So it's a little disappointing, but okay.
I think, we need to be focusing on building a warp drive. That'd be really interesting. And then we got to build the Enterprise. And then we've got to hire
moon oil. Got to set your sights lower. Got to get the moon oil.
moon oil and that asteroid and some asteroid platinum.
Yeah. There we go. Anyway, so that's the thing. So on to more down to earth kind of things here.
So this is an interesting article that Wendell sent over. It's just a prediction of what the hottest IT skills are going to be. This is for 2015, but some of this may also carry over for 2016. But we can just thumb through this right fast. I almost said really quick, but I said right fast. I don't know. Cloud security was pretty big, I guess.
I don't know. Chef is pretty nifty.
I might have sent the wrong article, but I thought this was predictions, like the predictions for things that were coming in 2016. They basically did this last year, and they revamped it a little bit. They revamped it a little bit for 2016, but it was basically saying, it's like, the tech sector is going to go through some compression in some fields.
It is,
and
old.
It was mainly related to cloud technology, because cloud technology they thought was going to supplant things like storage specialists and stuff like that, because everybody's going to just get a cloud. It's like, who's going to bother setting up Exchange when you can get Office 365 and bullshit like that.
I was kind of chuckle about that because everybody's going to need these things, the cloud services expert for the local company, but then you're going to have the people who are, like I said, the storage service specialist. His salary is going to go through the roof because they're going to become very valuable to the cloud companies that need to hire those guys so they can provide better cloud services to companies.
The other thing you're going to have is you're going to have a lot of the smaller businesses and possibly even some bigger businesses wanting to do as much as they can internally because they're worried about negative press and also just all the security nonsense that's going on with the NSA and GCHQ and all that stuff. If you're a company in the USA and you're trying to get international clients, a lot of people are going to be like, why would we want to store stuff there? The government is just going to do whatever they want, and we're not going to have any. So they're going to want to go to another country that has better security.
Security is one of the
laws.
fields that they predicted for growth for 2016, massive growth. In fact, it's really hard to get security right because a lot of security specialists have to have disciplines across many different fields. Just the other day, I had to clean up a situation where Eastern Europeans had guessed the password to a copy machine. Like the copier had an account, and for some reason it was a domain user. Don't make your copy machines a domain user. What is wrong with you? But it was a sort of a bad situation.
Not funny,
and
but it's
like,
funny.
well, this company had a CTO, a CSO, Chief Security Officer, but it just didn't dawn on him that maybe he should audit what the vendors do. And it's like, probably should audit what the vendors are doing. your copier company set up a copier account, so it's kind of bad. So yeah, security is definitely going to be up there for 2016 because the state of security on the internet is really just appallingly awful right now. So
Yeah.
you're going to have to. It's just full-time cat herding. Just hire people to deal with it. It'll be fine.
While we're talking about security and printers, make sure if you get a printer, like one of the big enterprise grade printers, that it's got an encryption level on the hard drive that's internal to it, that's making a copy of everything that's scanned, printed,
Right.
and whatever else. And if you ever have to remove the printer from service, make sure that that drive gets drilled through or something. I mean, hell, we picked up an HP printer at the company I worked for in New York, and it had a SATA drive that was like one of those little micro SATA drives that was loaded in there.
Like a micro drive, yeah.
But it was like, why is this in here? It's a small inkjet. Why do we need that? It's not even a copier. It was just a printer, and it had one of those little drives in there. I'm like, can we put this in the microwave? Because
the copier in question had only been installed for about a week, and guess what? It was running Linux or some form of Linux, but it had the bash shell vulnerability. So even though
the kernel hadn't been updated.
And so it's like, oh, I've got full root on the copier. Oh, look, there's a rootkit on the copier. Oh, look, they got in through the bash shell. Oh, I can't update this. Oh no, what is happening? Yeah. So
what manufacturer was that?
Speaking of security, let's take a look at the Bat. The Bat is an email client that's been around forever. It's kind of I think it's got a nerdy look to it. It's a bit ugly. I kind of miss stuff that looks like this. Maybe
it's very
being nostalgic here.
Very early
it's
XP
ugly.
day. I used to run this.
Ugly.
I used to run this back in like 98, 99. I used to run this back when it was still fresh and new. I was like, this is kind of neat, and I used to run it for a while because I didn't have enough money to buy Outlook and back then.
This is not a free program, but
anymore.
It is a secure program. Probably the security is one of the main features of this, or the main points of the Bat. So if you're looking for an interesting piece of software for all of your accounts, now maybe we should start using this. I really
does this
this was interesting because this company has had their accounts frozen. And, it's sort of the case that whenever there's news out of Moldova, it's usually not very good news. And this company has a very good track record of being good corporate stewards and making a good product. And they won some kind of award for paying their taxes in Moldova because apparently people don't actually pay their taxes very often.
You get an award if you pay taxes in Moldova? I guess they were mulled over by
a criminal element that doesn't pay its taxes or something. And this company makes a secure email program. And it seems to be that the secure email program has gotten the attention of somebody because there seems to be this sort of extrajudicial action to try to shut them down. So this company's probably going to go out of business in the next 30 days. But if there's anything you guys can do to help them, we just wanted to make you guys aware because they make a good product. We haven't talked about it before. They make a good and secure product, I think. And I know some people that use it, and they brought this to my attention. And it's like, oh, wow, that's interesting because with LavaBit and some of the other security stuff that we always talk about, the fact that this company's stuff was shut down and their bank accounts were seized, even extrajudicially, according to the laws of Moldova, from what I've been able to gather, this is really interesting. And this is also very bad because apparently secure email is a thing worthy of, doing this kind of maneuvering to shut a company down. It's very disappointing.
Now, guys, stay with us because we're going to try to get to the heart of the whole war against security and encryption. But we're going to do that in a minute. We're going to keep it light for just a few more seconds. Tiger Direct, they were purchased by PC Mall. And if you guys go on there right now, they're having what they call a site-wide blowout sale. They say everything's like half price. And one thing that's really interesting is if you look at their terms of service, it says like everything is as is, no refunds, no matter what. You don't receive the product, it's broken, it's on fire. We don't care. You don't get any refund. So
business as usual?
It just sounds about right, actually.
Logan, I can't think of a better Christmas present for you than this. I mean, honestly.
Hey, guys, let me tell you one thing. Logan's inbox is coming back, and I will be naked for the first one. And that's a scientific fact, and you can't stop
from the
me.
waist down,
I'm not
maybe.
filming that one.
Yeah, from the waist down. You guys won't know. Somebody might know. I don't know where I'm going with that. Anyway,
yeah.
One thing I wanted to say about this is, okay, I wouldn't I'm not gonna. Don't go there. Don't buy anything. Number one, because that's kind of bullshit what they're doing. But number two, I also looked around at some of the SSDs, and at first glance, it looked really compelling because it was like a 1 terabyte SSD, normal price $599 / no, it's only $150. And then I was like, oh, that's a huge discount. And I was like, let me just go ahead and check. Went over to Amazon, it's like $145. And I was like,
Thanks, Amazon.
50%. It's like 50% off their inflated prices. There may be a couple of things on there that you can get for a reduced price, but I don't know what's going on. I think the reason that PC Mall bought Tiger Direct was because they wanted their B2B business, and they hired 400 employees from Tiger Direct. Those are mainly salespeople. They did have a pretty big B2B department, so I think that's what they're really going to be focusing on. And I think Tiger Direct is going to go away. I think it's not going to be a thing other than business to business stuff soon. So there's that. Wendell, you want to talk about the next version of Android using the open source OpenJDK?
Yeah, so this is another one of those stories where we give you some backstory. So you guys might remember that Google implemented the Oracle Java API, which was published with the intention of having people use it, and lost in court because apparently APIs are not open, or because they use 3 or 4 lines of code from a particular routine or whatever. They lost, or they initially won, lost on appeal, won again. So Google is moving away from the Oracle Java API, and they're moving to the OpenJDK API. And what this means is they're basically moving away from Oracle. And I thought this was interesting. I was sort of reflecting on stuff that happened in 2015 because it's the end of the year, and hey, Happy New Year, everybody. I don't care, whatever. And thinking about how this has played out, it's really interesting. Companies like Microsoft and Oracle have been scared to death of the GPL, the GNU Public License, because they say it's viral and because it infects your intellectual property and you can't take a hold of it, and these sort of things about the GPL. But here we have an example of Oracle publishing the Java specifications with the intent to have everybody use Java in an open way with a license less than the GPL, basically an open license, as sort of, here, take it and use it. It's like, we own Java, you're going to have to pay us for Java. But this is the specification for Java if you want to make your programs to do interoperation. That's the point of an API, and people with a computer science degree understand that. The court necessarily doesn't understand that, but the judge that ruled in Google's favor, the one of them, actually had some programming experience for it. And so that's why he said, hey, wait a minute, this is how programs work. This is what an API is for. That's a story for another time. I just thought it was interesting that Google has announced they're going to use the OpenJDK, and it's not actually a GPL problem. It's not actually like all of the things that Microsoft and Oracle have attributed to the GPL as being bad in terms of it being viral and taking over your intellectual property. Google has been stung by exactly that situation, but not with the GPL, with a license that's supposedly open from Oracle. And so Oracle has used its licensing in a way that Oracle and Microsoft has said that GPL would hurt them. And so it's like, well, wait a minute, that's really interesting. It's like, oh, we need to license things in a completely open way, like we've done with the Oracle Java API. But it's not actually open. You can't actually use it. It's a trap. And so it's exactly the same kind of trap that they accuse the GPL of doing, of being. But the GPL is actually honest about it. The GPL says if you take and use our code and you distribute the program, then you need to distribute the source and your modifications to go with it. And so I think that's a much more open and honest approach. And I think that Oracle's approach here is extremely dishonest. So it's nice to see Google move to the OpenJDK.
That's that. Here's a follow-up from last week. We talked about piracy, and one of the things that I was saying is I think one of the worst forms of piracy is when pirates get a movie or acquire a movie that's not even released to theaters yet and then releases it to the public or puts it on a torrent website or something. I think that's probably the most damaging form of piracy. And some of the pirates who pirated Quentin Tarantino's new movie, God, look at his face right there. Well, I think CNN must hate Quentin Tarantino. Look at that. They use the worst picture. This looks like that's the face that I would imagine Tywin Lannister was making during his last moments. Anyway, so Hive CM8 are the ones who released the movie 4 days early. It was supposed to come out on Christmas. They released it on the 21st. They have apologized to Quentin Tarantino. They didn't want to do him any harm. They seem like they're big fans. I think they feel a little bit of remorse. Maybe they watched our video and were like, uh-oh, these guys are right. I don't think that's probably what it was, but I can pretend, right?
Nah.
So anyway, they've apologized, and they are hoping that the trouble and the issues and the news articles that were generated and all that kind of stuff, they are hoping that helped to create extra buzz for the movie, and they are hoping that more people go to see it. And they've released a statement saying like, don't watch our crappy download version, go see it yourselves. So,
well, let's just hope the 600,000 people that downloaded it go and watch it in the theaters, or at least most of them do.
Now, there's also the other argument that a lot of people always come up with. It like, you realize that a lot of the people who go and they pirate something are people who are not part of the standard. They're not a standard customer. Like, I wasn't gonna go see this movie. I didn't want to, but here it is. I may as well click on it. They're not going to see it in the first place. Yeah, but now they know about it and they like it and they're like, oh, that was amazing. Let me tell my friends. So there's also that to factor in. I'm not endorsing piracy, by the way, here. I'm just saying that that's another argument that someone came back with in the forum, and I was like, a lot of pirates are not people who would actually purchase something. They just like they see it for free and they're like, oh, I'm just going to grab this.
But is that a chicken or the egg catch-22 kind of scenario there? Where have they gotten to the point where they're so complacent with the whole context of, I'm just going to go and download it because I wouldn't actually buy it. I'm just going to download it. I'm just going to wait. It's like, am I going to read the book or am I just going to wait for the movie to come out? Is it the same kind of complacency of we know that this book, if it's really popular, they're going to make a movie out of it? I mean, I know people who've never read Harry Potter. They went and watched all the movies. They think they're experts on Harry Potter, or even Game of Thrones, or Lord of the Rings. I watched the movies. I'm the best expert on this stuff. It's like, I don't even want to get in there. But is that? It's just a question for you guys. Is that a complacency thing? Are some people becoming so complacent with the idea that you can go and pirate this that they may not be the type of person to go out and buy the movie or go out and watch it in the theater, but are they that kind of person because they know they can pirate it?
So you're saying before the whole complacency thing, maybe they would have gone to the theater, but now they've just got a thing in their head where they're like, I'm lazy, I'll wait for it to come out on the Pirate Bay or whatever, and then I'll grab it. But maybe a year ago, before they became a pirate, they would have been like, oh, I'm going to go see that.
Not that being a pirate is like a bad thing.
I would posit an alternative, which is they've watched a fictitious company, I don't know, for the sake of argument, let's say that the Schmizny Corporation get its tentacles into basically everything and take over the known universe into just sort of blatant child brainwashing. Take a franchise and completely rip it up, spit it out, and do whatever they want with it, and over-commercialize it to the point that they're actually, having Schmizny brand oranges and things that don't have anything to do with anything, to the point that it's so overly commercialized and distasteful that it perhaps ruins an imagined universe in a science fiction, science fantasy realm. And so the whole thing just turns disappointing and sour and makes you never, ever want to see anything or have anything to do with the franchise ever again, just theoretically.
I think that's a great segue for this. Here's our store, everybody. So we've got a lot of cool things on the store. This is brand new, just came out today. The name of the shirt is Tenochi Road, and
been there.
It features some interesting imagery of a man. This is a shirt with a man standing in a light.
In Hong Kong.
Yep. And I don't know what this is from.
Somebody beat us to the punch on the funniest shirt, because you said, this is an interesting segue into the store. My mind immediately went to the Mike Tyson. He got a hoverboard and then fell off the hoverboard. But then some very clever person made a T-shirt of that is the 8-bit Mike Tyson from Mike Tyson's Punch-Out falling off an 8-bit hoverboard. And that was great.
That's amazing.
Damn it. They beat us on that one.
They did.
Next time.
All right, so anyway, we got some more desk mats coming in. I ordered a slew of them. I pretty much spent all my Christmas money, and no one got any presents because I ordered more desk mats. Also, go ahead and grab your Land Syndicate tickets. We're going to extend the $75 for a few more days, probably until the 15th, because that's when we have to pay our bills. On the 15th, we have to go and pay for the damn place.
on the 15th, we find out if we've sold enough tickets to actually have the event in a hangar or if it's going to be moved to a hotel.
I don't want to move it to a hotel.
I don't really want to move to the hotel. I really like the hangar. I'm kind of attached to the
hangar. No.
Just plan for it now. Plan for the disappointment.
No. People are, I guess Seattle's a bit far of a drive for a lot of people. I never even thought of
Yes.
that. I figured people in Seattle would come.
No, that's the other thing is that I know that there are several of you guys out there who are planning on making a cross-country road trip, and for that, you guys are awesome. And if everything goes straight to hell, I'm gonna make sure that we're all taken care of and hanging out. And
No, it's not.
I'll run
gonna-
networks cables
guys are
into a
be-
parking lot.
No, it's everything's gonna be wonderful.
Everything's gonna be wonderful. We're gonna have an awesome hangar, guys. I'm really stoked about it. I'm leaning for the hangar.
Yeah.
It's looking like it's
uh,
going to be a very intimate experience for you guys that are coming.
Yeah.
No, we're gonna have lots of people there.
Tell your
million.
friends, bring more people, tell more people, tell everybody. Tell everybody. No, seriously, tell everyone.
Anyway, I've also discounted the full discography here of Zweihander, and again, that's going to the game development that we're working on. All right, moving on over. Comcast is generating more FCC complaints than AT&T, Verizon, and Time Warner Cable combined. I wonder why. Could it be the data caps? Oh yes, it probably is. That's about all I really want to say about this. We already knew they sucked, and here's proof that their customers hate them for the millionth time. Would someone please just...
This is just the first 10 months. This isn't even the entire year of 2015. The FCC received 11,812 complaints from Comcast alone.
That seems like a low number. I guess because everyone I've talked to is completely unhappy.
But no, that's 10 months. That means you got like 1,100 complaints a month.
I don't know. I think people need to go complain more on the FCC's website. You can do that. Go in there and tell them how you feel about those data caps. Do it. If you're an American citizen and you have Comcast, you owe it to yourself to get in there and complain about those ridiculous data caps.
Just complain about everything that Comcast is doing at this point.
Comcast will never deliver good internet because the internet is cannibalizing their other business, which is cable TV. It's just not going to happen.
I think they should get out of the internet business. That's my opinion.
Comcast?
Yeah.
Then what are they going to do?
They can have their TV and they can slowly
TV,
rot and
TV's
die.
dying.
Then they can die.
They're
They should
not going to do that.
what
It's not
they
realistic.
agreed to do in 1996, which is to uncouple the infrastructure from the services provided. That's not to say that the government has to run the infrastructure. It's just that the companies that have and maintain the infrastructure charge the cable companies, and they're a different set of people. Like the people that own the infrastructure and the people that actually provide the content are different people, because that's really the best way to do it. At least that's what the plan was in the 96 Communications Act.
Yeah, and the FCC has kind of taken maybe a couple really light steps toward that direction, but they're going to have to come in and put the axe down and be like, listen, this is what we're doing. Get used to the idea, all right? So kind of like what Zuckerberg is trying to do in India right now with his free internet to the people.
Sounds like a really great idea. Let's give everybody free internet.
There's a big problem here.
But you have to go through Facebook, and then you can only access things that we say is okay.
You have to be Zuckerberg.
Wait. Yeah, you're going to get Zuckerberg.
So now here's the thing. I guess you guys already know what's going on. He wants to provide free internet to places in the world that don't really have internet, but it's going to be curated by Facebook, and it's only going to be companies that either work with Facebook or pay for Facebook
I'm not satisfied with that explanation. That is not an accurate description of what he's doing. What he's doing is taking the internet and repackaging it so that no matter what you're doing on the internet, it is monetized by Facebook in one way or another. If Facebook is unable to monetize it, you can't get to it through whatever service it is. So it's not exactly internet access. It is access to information that's available on the internet, but you have to go through Zuckerberg Gateway. The problem with that is that he's basically the gatekeeper. He can pick the winners and losers. And you say, well, it's a free service. They're allowed to do that. They can leverage the internet to actually bring that. But it's actually kind of insidious. It's sort of brilliant from a capitalistic standpoint. But the nice thing is that the people in India have sort of recognized this for the Trojan horse that it is, and they're kind of rejecting it. But it's sort of insidious that they would have the idea to take all of the wonderful content that's available on the internet for free and not exactly repackage it, but sort of kind of repackage it, depending on how you look at it, and then deliver that as a value add in order to make their own money off of it. It's sort of it's like an evil version of Google Fiber, where Google is sort of the gatekeeper to the internet, but then all of the ads are replaced with Google ads. And it's like, wait a minute, what are you doing? Oh, Google Fiber's free. But this is sort of an interesting way to think about it.
Yeah, Google. Google's almost at that point anyway. This is a totally separate, totally non sequitur. But they're almost at that point because they've done it the other way. They've done it through without forcing people. But they have most of the ads on the internet are somehow connected to Google. It's ridiculous. So by giving people internet access anywhere, they're going to benefit. It's like, but it's a totally different scenario that way. Anyway, what were you going to say?
I wonder if when Facebook gets this thing all rolled out and you have to open up your Facebook app to access the thing that kind of resembles the internet, if it's going to make the modem squilt sound so everybody's reminded of AOL.
So
if Zuckerberg is the gatekeeper to the internet, then I would have to say that Kane is the key master.
now listen,
Wait a minute,
Zuckerberg.
does that mean we're going to turn into dogs and going to have to do the nasty with them?
Yeah,
Well,
I don't
then.
know who Sigourney Weaver's going to be, but somebody.
So Zuckerberg, of course, he's looked at all this and he's like, "What's all this outrage about?" Of course, you know what it's all about, but he's playing, the dumb and innocent. I'm just trying to help, guys, and no one wants my help, so I'm going to write an op-ed. And he wrote an op-ed, and it's extremely insulting. If you're in India, you should feel pretty insulted by this. He's talking down to you guys. He thinks you're stupid, and it's evident in the things he says. He tries to liken his internet service to libraries, schools, and hospitals. 3 public services that are not owned by major corporations. He says things like, we have collections of free, basic books. They're called libraries. They don't contain every book, but they still provide a world of good. So he's likening himself to that public service and saying, Facebook may not contain every website, but listen, we're still, providing a world of good.
You know what? I'm going to need more of that bottle.
Needs some more whiskey after this nonsense. So that's how warped he is. And of course he knows that this is nonsense. He doesn't actually think that his internet service is like a public service, like a library. He doesn't think that. And by the way, you can go to the library and browse almost anything. At least the Florida libraries. I went into the one in Miami once, and I was like, I wonder if they're... they have internet and stuff like that. I was like, they've got to have filters on this thing. Nope, guy in the back corner jerking off right there in the Miami library to porn.
I wonder.
And I was like, damn, they don't even censor this. I'm sure some states do, but not in Miami.
I have a
They
really
need to get
hard,
people in there any way they can.
I have a hard time saying any of the things I want to say after some of the crap that you say in this episode. That's all I'm saying, man. I'm like, oh, yeah, that's kind of gross. So I'm gonna liken that to wonder if Zuckerberg and the CEO from Comcast are they got like a drunken boxing match or something, and they're like, man, data caps, because paying for this is like paying for that, and oh yeah, man, Facebook, it's like libraries and hospitals, and everybody should have access to it, but you don't have access to everything. It's like they're saying the same fallacious arguments.
I bet they have like a little club
do.
that they go to. Have you ever seen the movie? What's that movie? Smoking something. The movie about not smoking. I don't remember, but there's the gun lobby, the tobacco lobby, and the liquor lobby all get together and meet up and talk about who's been the most evil and joke about it. And they're like, well, I took advantage of him this way, and I tricked him this way, and I had 50,000 children start smoking and die. They're all like joking around. That's in the movie. What's it called? Someone in the comments help me. What's that movie called? It's hilarious. Anyway,
Sounds like you're describing the executives of Adelphia.
That was boats.
I'm saying that. Thank you for
boats.
smoking. There it is. Someone
Thank
in the
you for
comments.
smoking.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for thank you for smoking. That movie is hilarious. Kind of sad. But I bet all the executives from these companies, they get together on like a weekend, maybe a yacht, maybe a certain restaurant once a year, and they're like, all right, so how many people did you take advantage of? And then they joke around and be like, oh, you guys haven't done anything. Listen, we're about to give free internet to India, and these idiots don't even know what's in store for them. Well, apparently they do, Zuckerberg.
I need my tinfoil hat. I don't know where I put it.
What?
I said I need my tinfoil hat. I'm like Bilderberg, Skull and anyway, you guys can just run with that stuff.
Anyway,
already confirmed.
That's enough of that. Let's talk about Google Fiber. So Google Fiber is looking pretty good this year. And it could be a very big year because they're considering some major cities like Los Angeles and Chicago.
And Portland.
Portland's, yeah, it's on the list. But the thing about LA and Chicago in particular, the way the article paints this, is that those are not medium-sized markets. They're major. San Antonio is pretty freaking major, too, and so is Austin. But these are like major markets. Like Los Angeles has like, I think the metro was like 13 million or something, or the whole area is like 13 million people. That's This is big time stuff. It's no longer like, hey, let's poke the industry a little bit to see if we can get Comcast and these other companies to behave or to actually provide some service. Now it's like, you know what, guys, let's go all in. And they've hired some people who know what they're doing, and I think Google is actually going all in on this. It's the 2016 may be the year where we're like, oh shit, Google is actually a big time ISP now.
I think they were like, poke it with a stick, and when all the, when Comcast and Time Warner, all those guys were like, meh.
What they actually did was, no, here's what they did. They called up their Uncle Senator, and they're like, Uncle Senator, Google's doing some stuff. Can we sue them, or can we put them out of business, or can you guys make a law to tell them to stop it, please, Uncle Senator? That's what they did. And Uncle Senator's like, I'll try. And they worked in Provo.
I think in the original episode of the Tech where we talked about this, which has been quite some time ago, we said that Google was playing a game of chicken with the ISPs, and the thing there with the incumbent ISPs are in basically, I don't know, a '79 Ford Pinto, and the Google people are in a fully loaded 18-wheeler, like one of the really nice new Volvo ones. And they're barreling down the highway, and so they're playing a game of chicken with Google, but they don't really realize that Google's in the fully loaded Volvo 18-wheeler. Meanwhile, they're in the '79 Ford Pinto that can't wait to catch on fire. And if you look at the cities that Google Fiber is rolling out to, Kansas City, centrally located. It's got a great airport system. It's centrally located. It's easy to get to from the east and west coast. First deployment makes total sense because that is going to be the central nexus or the central hub of the thing that you're doing. And then if you look at all the other cities they've rolled out, they're building a mesh across the United States for interconnectivity. This looks really good because this is exactly what you would need to do to build a nationwide network. And so the game of chicken, as it's unfolding, Google is just going deeper and deeper and deeper. And eventually, it does take a long time to ramp up this infrastructure. But once Google's got this infrastructure in place, what we've been saying all along about data caps and the availability of bandwidth and this kind of thing, the way that Google is going to win is Comcast and AT&T are trying to prop up their copper infrastructure. And Comcast, we didn't mention it in the article, but Comcast just now is like, oh my gosh, we figured out how to do fiber on our existing coax infrastructure. And coax can actually carry a lot of bandwidth, nowhere near the amount of bandwidth as fiber, but actually a ton of bandwidth. And gigabit is not unreasonable on a coax deployment if you don't have an overloaded neighborhood. So that's actually possible. But the thing is, once Google actually gets their network operational, and it is this nationwide fiber network, they can immediately turn up the bandwidth. And overnight, Comcast and Time Warner have absolutely lost their shirt. That's why these ISPs are looking to get out. They've probably had their analysts, and they've probably had people at the top saying, oh God, we've got to get out. We've got to have mergers. We've got to do all this stuff. We've got to raise our rates. We've really got to capture our customers and not let them get away and get them locked in. Because just as soon as Google has the fiber network everywhere, fiber will always be way cheaper to operate and way easier to maintain than this copper network is really a Lovecraftian horror. You guys have no idea how bad it is. And the AT&T network is even more of a Lovecraftian horror than the cable network. I mean, it's really bad. It's not been maintained properly. It's really, really awful. And so once Google rolls that out, it's just going to stomp on all these existing companies, and they're going to be able to they would be able to charge $5 a month and probably still make a profit. And so these other communications companies probably see that and are scared to death. But they're still not swerving out of the way. They're still not, working to actually improve their stuff. They're sort of just trying to delay the inevitable, which is a really funny strategy. But it can't get here fast enough because I want good internet. Damn it.
Okay, I've got your analogy, and I'm going to raise you your analogy. Okay, so instead of the Mack truck or the Volvo and the Pinto, I'm going to borrow from the first StarCraft. There was a cut scene where there was a couple of redneck boys driving around in a Jeep, and then they drive over a Zergling. So they actually hit Google pretty hard. Google was a Zergling, and that was Provo, where they're like, we got our laws to stop you from doing things.
Provo was a weird situation. They were fighting the local municipality, and then Google came in, and they weren't actually fighting Google, but they were fighting fiber deployment.
True. Okay. So anyway, that was hitting the Zerg, and then they get out and they're like, it's a Zergling, Lester. It's they don't travel around themselves. Wait, oh shit! And then here comes Google descending, and it's just the mob of Zerg coming in from everywhere to destroy the couple of dudes who are like, oh
Google is the
shit.
Zerg.
Yeah, Google is a Zerg.
Zerg rush.
I'm
They're not
I'm
rushing.
gonna.
This is not. I don't
Well,
know.
yeah, Google's playing chess. In order to understand what Google's doing, you have to be a chess master. And obviously, the guys at the other ISPs are not playing chess regularly because all that money
They may
they've
not
got
even
a
be
lot
playing
of money.
checkers.
Yeah, they're playing checkers. King me. That's all. That's their favorite phrase is king me.
Yeah.
Anyway, so what's interesting about this is if they were playing chess, they would look at all their vast reserves of capital and they would be like, maybe we shouldn't buy each other. Maybe we should be trying to compete because that is what will keep our customers happy. That's what's going to keep them coming back. That's what's going to give us the edge. We've got all this money. Let's start doing the same thing, laying fiber everywhere. That would cannibalize their TV service, though.
They don't have time for rational thought.
It's crazy. So anyway, that's probably
laying
enough on
fiber
this.
is impossible. Meanwhile, we have dudes doing it in Vermont with mules. I mean,
Yeah,
they're not really
It's
think
a
outside
draft
the box
horse.
people.
yeah. They can't afford a draft horse. That's
Yeah.
a nice draft horse too. Anyway, what's next on the old menu here? It's time to get into this.
Yeah, spying on Congress and Israel.
So right now, we are going to try to get to the heart of the whole anti-spy or the whole anti-security and pro NSA and what's the word I'm looking for? The anti-encryption.
Anti-encryption and anti-privacy, because if you've got nothing to hide...
That was a decent Joseph Stalin impersonation. I guess I don't know. If you got nothing to hide, what do you hide?
This is all the security stuff that we've covered before. The only thing new here is that this is something that we want to point out that you should look for. And that is, here we have an article about people in government that were very, very pro NSA, very pro having a backdoor for encryption, very pro, the intelligence community is spying on everything. When actions that they have taken behind closed doors are embarrassing and made public, or spied upon by these same agencies, the NSA and others, they're suddenly very upset by that, which is an indicator that the politicians and the people in government see themselves differently than ordinary citizens, and that is what you have to look for. The people that are arguing for these kinds of things in America and the UK don't see themselves as a member of the ordinary citizenry. They're somehow exempt or they're somehow special. This is the dangerous situation that you get in. Anytime that anybody has any kind of celebrity or any kind of power, absolute power corrupts, or power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely.
There you go,
get into a situation with these government officials where it's like, oh, they're spying on me, they're not treating me different, oh, this is unacceptable. And we talked about how even like Comcast is putting stuff in their CRM to be like, this person is important, treat them differently. This is a very dangerous path for our society to go down. This is what leads to revolution and societal upset and sort of the masses getting very upset and sort of not knowing who to take their anger out on. This is how we end up with social problems, like not taking care of our mental health, and not our police force in America is out of control, and the UK has some problems, and Australia has a lot of problems. And so this is something that you as citizens should be on the lookout for. Anytime you see a politician acting not as if they're an ordinary citizen, this is very bad. Politicians need to have the attitude that they are stewards of the public trust. And if politicians do not have that attitude, you end up in situations like this where they're like, let's throw the baby out with the bathwater and put all these backdoors and encryption because I just need to spy on everything. But if you're spying on me, that's not okay. I just need to spy on you. This is how this works. This is very dangerous. Sunlight is the best disinfectant, and you can't trust government to operate if it doesn't operate transparently. And if you have people acting like this behind closed doors, it's very bad for a civilized society.
And that's really, let me quote Henry David Thoreau, as I do once in a blue moon. He says that there's 1,000 people hacking at the branches of evil and only one hacking at the root. So a lot of times we're fighting the legislation, or we're fighting the rules, and we're fighting the NSA. When if you look behind it all, there are a group of people enabling this who think that they are a different tier of human. And that is the problem, because they're the ones, it takes a human being to put these things into action. It takes a human being to say okay to these things. There are humans behind this thing, and we see it on both sides of the pond. We've got it over here in the UK. Our friends over there in the UK. I'm very sorry for what's going on over there with the GCHQ and MI5, MI6, all that kind of stuff. Right now, you have companies like Twitter and Apple and Facebook and Google and all these guys saying like, listen, when the government comes to us and says that we want information, private information about correspondences, about websites that people visit, we're going to go ahead and tell our users that, hey, the government requested some information. Well, the government in the UK, this has gone farther than any other government so far that I know of, other than like some communist countries and things. But as far as like I guess most of our audience, the UK has now gone the farthest. So the UK has a new bill on the table, or whatever they call them over there. They call them bills over there? I guess so. I don't know. Anyway, what they want to do is they want to make a new law that says that if your company does not give up the information they request. Charter. Yeah, Snooper's charter. They said give up the information, and if you tell the user that you've given up their information, well, whoever's in charge of that company is going to be criminally liable and can spend up to 2 years in prison. That is the quickest way to stop anything, because you can bet the CEO of these major companies is not going to want to personally go sit in prison because they gave up some information on one of their users told the user.
You really think Zuckerberg's going to be like, I will totally go to jail for all of you UK folk?
Nope. Not going to happen. So this is a really... it's unsettling, man.
This is the whole, like, why is there not transparency? I mean, if somebody executes a search warrant on your house, you get notified. There's not anything you can do about it, but you at least get notified. Doing this in the dark without any kind of supervision, there at least needs to be something in here that's like, we'll notify you 30 days after the fact, or 15 days after the fact, or something. But doing this in the dark, this is a very, very big step down a very slippery slope that we as technologically informed citizens should be super concerned about. And I really worry that the government actors are either acting maliciously or acting with incredible incompetence and an incredible lack of knowledge of history, because we have better technology than we've ever had in human history. And this kind of thing led to some very bad stuff in recent human history and in recent civilization in Europe and abroad. And I can't believe that nobody is thinking about these things in those contexts. It's very disturbing. And you guys, it's up to you guys to correct this if you want to. I mean, somebody's got to stand up and take note of this. This is not a good situation.
I think the angle that I would probably be going for right now is trying to figure out ways to either remove the people who think that they're a different tier of citizen, that they're, that they should have special rules and special laws for them, and the regular population is whatever. I don't know. I'm not sure. Yeah, it's exactly.
It's the peasants versus peons. The nobility.
Yeah. So how do you either remove that, as far as like mentally, how do you connect with them? You probably don't. It's got
to be a cultural thing. It's got to be, it's like, I am a steward of the public trust, and less I think people have that are in those positions have the attitude of, I am a steward of the public trust. Is the thing that I'm doing in the best interests of the public?
Most of your, in America anyway, most of your politicians that have been holding these seats, very few of them are from humble beginnings, as they would say. I know a few from Alaska that they started with nothing. They lied their way into a job and then worked their way up to, now they're a senator, But I don't, every single time I look at these politicians, I see wealthy people who have been raised in money or raised in a rather affluent function in society here in America. And then
there's nothing wrong with
there's nothing wrong with that. But if they can't identify with their constituency, then who are they really representing? And that starts a whole nother
they have to be in touch with the rest of humanity, and they have to see humanity as a whole as at least they need to see humans as equals, and that's the problem. And let me finish one little quick thing here. If a lot of times the people in power, they're always getting us distracted by racial tension. Be angry about that. Fight amongst yourselves. And then when we come back and we're like, okay, well, we've pretty much settled that issue in a couple of areas here. There's always some idiots who are still fighting. But then they're always like, oh, well, don't hate us. We want you guys to hate the poor people. So they want you to hate down instead of hating up. and they've tricked everyone, and a lot of us are at fault. You know, we walk around saying things like, damn, all these poor people, they're on welfare, and I have to work extra hours to pay for these idiots, and they're ruining the economy by being poor and stupid. And they've got us hating the people beneath us, it's a much bigger group to hate. And it shifts the focus away from them. And it also continues to keep that separation between them and the peasants. And they've got us fighting amongst ourselves, and we're stupid for doing it. It's really, really stupid. We need to start looking up and being like, okay, you guys have got a lot of money, and you've got a lot of power, but you're not taking care of any of the rest of us. So what the hell is going on? And we need to look up instead of down a lot of times. There's some good people who have a lot of money, but there's also a lot of people who are up there who think they're on another level. And that's really what messes everything up.
Yeah.
So, go ahead, Wendell.
There's an article that we found for you guys that will sort of round us out and sort of take us on to the next topic pretty well. And that it was on Politico.com, which is a political website, and politics and tech, they overlap a little bit, and that's why we think you guys being informed is so important. But this was interesting because this is a guy that worked on something called the Clipper chip in the 90s. And so the short version of the situation there was that AT&T developed these crypto phones that worked over the ordinary analog telephone network. It did encryption over the analog telephone network. It was great. You buy 2 of them, your conversation would be encrypted. The intelligence community lost their mind. They were like, oh crap, these are going to be everywhere tomorrow. This is not going to be good. This is going to be really bad. AT&T had already sold a bunch. The NSA approached AT&T and said, hey, you've got to recall these. We need a way to break the encryption. There was nothing wrong with them, except that the NSA couldn't break the encryption. So the NSA talked AT&T into issuing a product recall on the crypto phones they'd already sold, replaced them with phones that had an NSA backdoor, and so were less secure. And so this guy figured out the NSA backdoor and how to exploit it. And so this interview on Politico is a very nice, plain language, don't have to be super technical way that walks you through. And this was going on in the 90s, and so 30 years, and we haven't learned our lesson. There's another agenda here. This is a red herring. We don't need to be talking about backdooring encryption. That is a dumb argument, and we should just let it go. There's no backdooring encryption is just not a good idea. It's not going to work, and we should just not, it shouldn't even be part of the conversation. It would be like, I don't know, replacing water with Brondo because, it's got electrolytes. It's that dumb.
Brondo's got electrolytes. Yeah, Matt Blaze really, you guys should go ahead and check out this article. It sums up what we already know, but you may need to be armed when you're talking to people who are not in the know, because they're going to come back with some of this nonsense about terrorists and all that stuff. So just, if you have just a simple way to explain it.
My thought is, if you've got a hotel and it's on physical keys, every single door is keyed differently, but there is a skeleton key that will open every single door. And according to the public, the public facing presentation of this, is that only 4 people in the entire hotel have that skeleton key. 4. But that skeleton key still exists, which means that anybody can make one if they know the proper arrangement of that skeleton key. So if you have somebody who's a locksmith, happens to know, or maybe worked for the company that installed all the locks, they have a skeleton key, but we don't talk about that. But then if somebody else is another locksmith, goes, hey, I can make one of those, or just screw it, I'm just going to bypass all of that and make a bump key. Suddenly I can open up every single door in the entire hotel. If you've got a back door that the government has and says, oh, we've only got 3 agencies that have this, it's either going to leak, or someone's going to come across the code that creates that encryption that has the backdoor built into the code. They're going to find a way of decompiling that code or reverse engineering it and creating their own creating their own key to use in the built-in backdoor. And if you've got
this happened with Juniper, and we talked about it a little bit last month. This may have almost happened with the Linux kernel, which we've talked about before. This may have also happened with the Debian random number generator, which is really interesting. The Debian random number generator was crippled for years, and nobody noticed until somebody said, hey, wait a minute, the random numbers I'm getting from Debian are all kinds of weird. Fortunately, my undergrad project was for a USB-based, one of my undergrad things that I did was for a USB-based random number generator that generated random numbers based on a bunch of analog sensors and a heat source. So, yay! Was not affected by that particular Debian bug.
Speaking of Debian, I think it's about time to have some Linux talk, and we'll get to the Debian founder in just a moment. First off, we're going to talk about this article here that's for some reason in Spanish, and it keeps trying to translate it, but whatever. I'll just do it in Spanish. Grandes problemas de Linux en el escritorio, which is
The only Spanish I know is El Noo Uo Smoko from the airplane movies.
That's his big problems for Linux on the desktop. And then right here it says, in este artículo, okay, in this article there's a problem of the problems of Linux distribution over the internet. I don't know. Why does this keep coming back in Spanish?
You got Microsoft Translator English to Spanish. Can you just unplay that?
Why is that there?
Or close it? Does that? Hey, look at that!
Hey,
Suddenly it's back in English.
Why was it doing that?
I don't know. There's a translate
what did
page.
you
You
guys
hit the
click?
play button earlier.
I don't know. It was in
the mouse.
Spanish. I don't know, but
I know how this happened. I will call him out on it later.
It was the whiskey.
Yes.
Well, what did I click on? This thing up here?
It was when you were trying to shut up that other video.
Pass the
You
whiskey.
clicked on the translate button. Anyway, so that was entertaining. We are now.
Yeah.
He actually speaks Spanish. He grew up in
Not
Florida.
really.
Sort of speaks Spanish.
They wouldn't.
He grew up in Florida.
They wouldn't let me speak English in most places in Miami. It was sad.
I guess it's New Year. Somewhere not here.
No,
I was like, I told you I was going to kill you before. Those
Well.
fireworks or gunshots?
I had to stop and think about it. They are fireworks, but they certainly sound like gunshots.
So fireworks for where you guys are. That's fireworks celebrating the New Year in Costa Rica.
Yeah, I don't know. We must have some Costa Ricans around
Yeah,
here.
it's fireworks. I'm seeing pretty weird lights. They're really crappy fireworks. This is why
few
you don't
people-
get fireworks in Washington State. They suck.
I thought that we were gonna. I thought this was gonna be later. I was like ready to kill a few people, but now maybe we should go now and kill them and come back.
I don't know. Anyway, so major Linux problems on the desktop 2016 edition.
Well, you can go into this one here. I didn't.
I thought
didn't read this one.
this guy always has a long list of stuff. This is the stuff that's hard to fix on Linux, and why, quote unquote, why Linux is not ready for the desktop. It's somewhat tongue in cheek, because Linux is ready for the desktop if you're ready for Linux. But
That's the problem. A lot of people are just not ready for Linux.
There are some very basic things, like if you have a laptop that has NVIDIA Optimus, which is you have both an Intel iGPU that's used in low power situations and an NVIDIA GPU when you want to do more stuff. The support for that on Linux is basically awful. And the experience, if you want to use Linux on such a laptop, is really not very good out of the box on any major distribution, and it needs a lot of work. There's a whole bunch of other stuff that is in the list, and he's been updating it year over year. This is not anything new. I just think it's always interesting to revisit. One of the things that disappeared this year is Adobe Flash, and not because Adobe Flash is really great on Linux, it's because Adobe Flash is obsolete. So it's been on the list so long, it's no longer relevant. So if you're a
Linux is like-
developer and you want to,
They're like,
Yeah.
oh, next year it'll go away, and then it comes and like, damn, Flash is still a thing. That piece of crap. Okay, next year it's going to go away. Then the next year comes and finally it went away.
so it's sort of a fun list to read if you're thinking about getting into Linux. Go read the list so you can see what you're getting yourself into. Not that it's anything bad. I use Linux on the desktop. I think it's great. But if you're expecting to download and install a CD, depending on what kind of hardware you have and some other stuff, it might not meet your expectations. That's really more about adjusting your expectations than anything bad. I think that it's perfectly fine and reasonable. But I just think that for quote unquote the masses, there are some things in this list that are valid complaints.
Some of them are, well, the open source driver is the thing that they complain about a lot. The proprietary driver, it's not open source, is actually about the same exact speed as the counterpart. Like on Windows or OS 10 or something. You can play games at about the same speed with both NVIDIA. They say Intel and AMD's drivers. I've found that AMD's drivers are about the same speed. They're just quite a bit of a pain in the ass to install on some distributions. But I think a lot of these issues, the biggest issue there is obviously the Optimus for if you have a laptop, and then some of the sleep states can be a little bit finicky, and a lot of that is not Linux. It's not the fault of Linux. It's the fault of the hardware manufacturer not making their stuff compatible either in the firmware level or also just not creating good enough drivers for Linux because they don't see Linux as they don't think anybody cares about Linux. So we have to tell them, hey guys, if you don't make Linux stuff, well, we'll probably still buy them anyway. Damn it.
I'm still waiting for NVIDIA to come out with their BIOS drivers, man.
I would say that to have a really good laptop experience on Linux, you still probably want to pick a laptop that's going to work really well with Linux. Me personally, I've got a really, really great setup with Linux on a Microsoft Surface Pro 3, using it more as a laptop and less as a tablet. I've really been waiting on Ubuntu Unity for the Surface Pro 3 so that I have a better tablet experience. The betas are okay, but they're a little crashy and weird. I really like where Ubuntu is going with that thing and sort of doing the whole unified phone and tablet experience. But it was a lot of work, and that doesn't have Optimus. You know, it's still a lot of work to get Optimus even working halfway right. So I think that like the Dell XPS 13 is probably your best bet for an out-of-the-box machine with Linux that basically works okay. Although there's two different versions of the XPS 13, Intel and Broadcom, depending on which wireless card you get. And one of the wireless cards is more problematic than the others. But that's just sort of that's the 2015 roundup, I guess, the mini roundup.
All right, you guys are ready to we're going to get heavy here for a minute. Ian Murdock, he's one of the creators of the Debian distro, which has, that Debian is the heart of Ubuntu and Linux Mint.
I just want to point out here that Ian Murdock is the Ian in Debian. That's like the going statement here.
He's young. He was in good shape, and I don't know what happened. He's dead, and
he died on Monday night, I think, or Tuesday
morning. After a series of mysterious tweets that have been taken down, but luckily the internet does not forget. All these weird tweets about don't trust the police. They do whatever they want. Shall I post pictures of my bruises? That he incurred from the police. He was thrown around. He was obviously beaten by police. Just a series of tweets that led up to his death, and no one knows if he killed himself or if the police beat him to death or what or why or.
And this could be all speculation. There's also a running theory that all of these tweets that his account was hacked and his stuff was deleted, and that's why. But ultimately, we
don't know anything.
We don't know much what's going on. I guess we'll find out in the coming weeks and months. But what I want to walk away from this is that we have lost yet another, I would say, a titan in the.
He was extremely gifted, an extremely talented and gifted person, and regardless of what happens, regardless of what the situation was, I do think that the police in America are completely unequipped to deal with mental health situations. If this was any kind of mental health situation, they would only escalate the situation instead of de-escalating it and getting somebody the help that they need.
People have likened this to the whole Aaron Swartz case, and without knowing what has happened, it may or may not be in the same area, but they're both, they were both in the computer world, both in the programming world, and both found themselves dealing with law enforcement. And a lot of Uber nerds like that do have mental states or mental issues, or as far as not knowing how to deal with these sorts of things.
I see it.
I don't know.
There are people that I know that are extremely gifted intellectually that I think that when you have a very strong emotional reaction, it's an input that you're not really able to manage the way that you're able to manage. I mean, I watch really gifted people work, and they're able to take a lot of visual information and auditory information, and they just sort of whiz through it. I mean, it's like watching an episode of Star Trek where, like Commander Data is going through, all kinds of crazy stuff. Watching a gifted person work like that, that's how they get used to working, and that's how they're used to their mental faculties being. But there's still this emotional component that's maybe a little subconscious. And definitely I could see that if somebody has a traumatic experience or experiences a profound personal loss or has another normal human emotion or emotional reaction or like an evolved response or something, I could see those people having trouble dealing with that intellectually because it's such a strong stimulus, and it's such a profound thing that you can't, if you're used to being in complete control of your mental faculties, having that there inside of your head is very, I don't want to say distracting, it's very off-putting, it's a very foreign experience. And so I think that people that are very gifted intellectually, that are used to being in complete control of their faculties, this is one of the reasons why this kind of reaction happens. You have an Aaron Schwartz, and you have somebody who's like, was like, well, the police are involved. It's not completely the end of the world. But in the tweets, if they were from him, it looked like he was, very upset, and he thought his career had come to an end, and his idea of the police being there to protect and serve had been shattered, obviously from his personal point of view. And so there are a lot of you guys like that in the audience. And so we mentioned this to reach out to you guys and say, yes, you're very gifted intellectually. There's not really anything you can do to prepare yourself if you have a day like this, but just try to put it out of your mind and try to move on to the next day, because there's nothing that's worth, there's no screw up that's so bad that you need to kill yourself. And that's really what it comes to. Or there's no situation that you're in that's that bad. There's no, unless you really, you get the fake tooth with the cyanide capsule, so that, it's like, oh, this is really bad. Don't do that. It's not that bad. It will never be that bad. Just make it through to the next day and the day after, and you'll be better for it.
In this particular case, one of the main reasons that I'm curious as to what happened as far as all this goes is because I want justice to be served. We lost a major key player in the open source community here, and we need some answers out there from whoever. Some of these posts on Twitter, they're hard to believe that they're actually from him, because he was so smart. He wouldn't be online saying his worth, saying I have $1.4 million in the bank. I just can't see him saying that unless he was under such severe mental duress that he was just not in his right mind, and he was posting like the amount of money he has and saying things like, I'm a rich white male. Like that's a bit weird coming from someone of his position.
They're definitely out of character.
Yeah, so I don't know what to believe, and it would be nice to have a couple of answers. I don't want manufactured answers. So how do you even get to the truth here?
But at the same time, if he is if he's like the super intelligent people that I know, this reaction is not necessarily because they're used to being in complete control of their very, very powerful and very keen intellect. And if you have an experience like this, you can't think. Your brain is in fight or flight mode. And so the computational resources that you're used to having in your brain just aren't there. And so you can get some really, really weird reactions. You have to calm down, take a deep breath, learn some exercises, learn to cope with it. I dare say that having, if you identify with people like Ian Murdock, then I would suggest that you do something that really gets your heart racing and really gets you used to adrenaline and emotional reactions. And I don't know what that is. Go skydiving. Go to a shooting range. Go to something that will trigger that fight or flight response in a controlled manner, just so you can experience it, because that emotional high may not be something that you're used to if you're used to being intellectual.
You have some?
Nope.
Oh,
I'm
much it. All right, let's move on here, guys. Be curious to know what you guys think in the comments. How do you go on to like the next thing from that? We'll try to. I guess you just do it, right?
There's.
Let's just go ahead into the next thing.
I have a moment of silence. I don't know. Drink to that. I don't even know. I am having one of those emotional moments where I'm like, I don't even know.
I know there's a key member like this of the.
I'll definitely drink to his memory. Super cool, awesome guy. I'm only rocking unsweetened iced tea, but whatever.
Cheers to that.
Coffee and theanine. That's all I've got left. No more whiskey for tonight. All right, let's take a look at an interesting phone that's good for travel and also extremely inexpensive from Blueboo. I don't know. Anyway, this is the Xfire 2, and the main reason I'm mentioning it, it's got an octa-core, it's only 720p, but triple SIM card. Triple SIMs.
We've been all over the world. We've been to China.
That'd be handy.
We've been to Taiwan. We've been to, we've been all over Germany. And Germany, Austria, Belgium, all those countries. And I'm still trying to figure out why I would need 2 SIMs, much less 3.
That's one of the big things. I would like to have 2 SIMs when I'm in China, because China is kind of a headache, even with our plan with T-Mobile that allows us to travel and have limited data access. Another SIM would be really handy there. you need 3 if you're just traveling all the time to multiple different countries for business or something like that.
I guess that's true.
But the weird thing about this is the person who's going to need 3, unless you have, I don't even know why you would do that. I don't know.
Well,
it's only $69, so it's at a price point that's extremely low. I don't know. Why would you guys need 3 SIMs? I would like 2. I need 2. But not
like my
three
phone, I got the OnePlus 2, and it's got 2 SIMs. And when we were in China, I kept thinking, like, should I get a local SIM? And then I thought about it, and the more I thought about it, I'm like, all the stuff that I need to access, I can't access anyway. So it wasn't worth it to get a second SIM. Now, if we're in like Taiwan for Computex, it would be worth it to have a second SIM, because then we do have access to the open stuff. Or if we're in Hong Kong, I'd be able to have access to, the open internet on a local high-speed connection. It would be nice. But I'm 3. I'm like, where would you need 3? Again, if you're traveling a lot and you need local numbers for multiple countries, or if you're in one of those places where maybe you've got maybe you're in Germany or the UK where you've got multiple providers, and you're like, oh, it's cheaper for me to buy a SIM from all 3 of these companies and get 10 gigs from here, 10 gigs from here, and 10 gigs from here, instead of paying overage charges. You just switch one off and switch the next one on for data connectivity.
No. Anyway,
or if you're a drug dealer.
We're going to be at CES next week, and we'll be probably doing a show from CES, from the show. Should be quite a bit of fun. We've actually got Paul, and you guys are going to do most of the videos. I'm going to some meetings and stuff. But Paul's going to be doing videos with Tech Syndicate, for Tech Syndicate. So it's really awesome.
Excellent.
What on earth is wrong with me? We'll have Paul from Paul's Hardware along with us. That should be actually a lot of fun. And this is something I'm kind of interested in. There's a lot of hardware, but I'll just make a quick mention of this because we talked about killing gaming headsets quite frequently, and the Audio-Technica ones they do sound really good, and they've got a couple new ones coming out. I just wonder if they're going to be like the older ones, where you can go and buy almost the equivalent set of headphones from Audio-Technica for like $150, $160, and then you can go get a nice microphone and have a really decent setup for a couple $100. Or if you go buy their gaming headsets, they're usually really expensive. Like, wow, attaching that microphone is worth an extra $150. Wow. So I'm wondering if it's going to be that way.
And then the microphones suck.
Actually, some of the ones on the Audio-Technica are okay.
Well, I'm just saying, but that's generally speaking. Mm-hmm. You buy a gaming headset, the idea is that the headphones are okay, and the microphone is okay to crap. And it's
$299. Yep, sure enough, it's gonna be $300.
So this microphone better be worth a whole hell of a lot of awesome, because I have a $300 pair of headphones, and the only thing that makes them really worthwhile is that they're wireless, because the microphone on that thing is, it's okay. It works, yeah. But it's okay. You can tell that it's a headset microphone.
And then you also have to worry about the input that you're going to be plugging your microphone into it. So it's a mess. But anyway, we'll be covering lots of hardware. If there's something really special that's going to be at CES, let us know. We've got a pretty full schedule already, but we'll try to get to some key things. If enough of you say, hey, we really want to check this thing out that we know is going to be there, maybe we'll be able to swing by and have a look at it. All right. This is kind of cool. We probably should have been earlier in the show, but Microsoft has written some really advanced artificial intelligence called I don't know.
I was practicing pronouncing that earlier, and I got nothing right now.
Well, what's cool about this is they've been analyzing. The AI has been looking at forums and chats and all that kind of stuff, trying to analyze the speech of just regular people so that they can make their artificial intelligence more personable, just easier to talk to or whatever. And they've been letting it do the weather reports. So I'll just skip here.
正是香港的人工智能少女，拜许许哥哥，希望以后我们能好
They're
好
also
相处。
incorporating this artificial intelligence into the new Microsoft selfie application. And now that I've reported on that, I need to go slit my wrists.
Well, Wendell will be back in a moment. So that's kind of interesting. Artificial intelligence is all over the place lately. I don't think I want to talk about this article. Did you guys want to talk about this one?
The AI in
Silicon
the
Valley
application tries to figure out the best way to give you a selfie, like fixing skin tone and all this other kind of stuff, and it's just
that business.
Such a waste of human resources. Come on, there's this whole list of problems on Linux we need to fix. Put the developers on that. Don't worry about the selfie business.
They're going to make a ton of money.
But who's going to take a picture of me when I'm the only person I know?
That's kind of deep and sad.
It is. Anyway, now let's move on to this. The Silicon Valley is
There it is,
confusing
there.
pseudoscience with innovation. I actually wanted to touch on this very briefly because it was a company that was like making some really crazy claims about some stuff, and they got
This is terrible. You're talking about Theranos?
yeah,
The company who was making the little blood kit to be able to detect tons of diseases?
yeah, they made a bunch of tall claims. They were valued at like 9 million or 9 billion,
7
and they're not actually able to do what they claim to do.
Where were you going with this?
That's the article. This company claimed to do some really crazy, awesome stuff. They got valued at a lot of money, and they can't actually do what they were claiming to do. And that
Yeah, I didn't prepare enough for this article to have a full conversation about it. I guess the big point is that a lot of venture capitalists are looking into the medical field and the science fields and being like, ooh, that's cool and sexy, let's throw lots of money at it. And they don't, a lot of times they just get excited by valuations and ideas and people having interviews that are, like, oh, that person sat down and had a good interview, let's throw a lot of money at them, that's a good technology, without actually vetting the science behind it. They're just investing in pseudoscience, and we're seeing a lot of that over the last couple of years. Companies are losing billions of dollars. Lots and lots of investments have been right down the toilet. So I guess we're wondering if that's going to continue, seeing as how some major companies have failed. As far it's I don't know. It's not really a .com bubble, and I don't know how much I really want to talk about it. You want to say anything about it, Wendell?
This is silly.
Yeah, it's just silly.
Calico is the only credible company I know of that's working in this area, which is a Google venture. And it's run by Ray Kurzweil, who is doing something right, because the dude is like 70 and he looks like he's 40. So he's doing something right.
All right, let's talk about this funny robotic mule from Boston Dynamics. So they created this. We've showed this on the show quite a bit. There it is.
it's pretty awesome.
It's cool. You kick it. It runs sideways. It can do all kinds of things.
They wanted to use it in like military deployments. So you have like a Navy SEAL or Marines
almost, yeah.
running through the
Contract
woods,
canceled.
dog running around with them, and they're like, nope, sorry, dog's too damn noisy. It's gonna give away our position.
Yeah, can you imagine, like, every time I see that thing, you hear it in the background. It's like, that's like, why didn't they think of that a long time ago? It's like,
It's mostly the gas engine.
yeah, it's like, hey, let's take this really loud lawnmower. No one will ever know where we are. It's probably got a bigger engine than a lawnmower, though, but yeah.
Anyway, I think this thing's still got some applications elsewhere, but as of right now, DARPA's shelving it. So, and they had a smaller, quieter one, also got shelved. So, bye-bye.
So let's talk about some video games. I'm ready to go play some video games. Hey, you know what? It's almost time for Happy New Year on the East Coast. Almost. We're not going to wait that long, though.
I don't know.
No, we're going to go play video
40
games.
minutes.
Pathfinder Online. They've been making this for like 4 years. I've been kind of loosely watching it. I really enjoy the Pathfinder game system. I think it's slightly a better version of like 3.5 D&D. I like Castles and Crusades quite a bit better than that anyway. But Pathfinder, I think, is a nice universe. Mostly compatible with D&D, very similar to D&D if you're someone who's new. And I was always hoping that this could be the D&D Online that D&D Online was not. Anyway, they've just been acquired by a much larger company, and it should accelerate the development of the game, give them a lot, give them more resources, more developers. So it looks like everyone's saying this is a positive thing. I just want the game to be good and come out. If they really screw up with that license, then damn. But
I hate it when that happens.
hopefully they'll do the right thing.
You're like, oh,
Make a good
it's
game.
like letdowns. I hate letdowns.
Yeah. All right, what else do we have here? That's pretty much the end of it,
Talk
right?
This
about
was-
the Valve caching thing.
This is the Valve caching thing.
We can chit chat about that for just 1 second. The Valve caching thing. I just devoted Valve that entire day, and I don't know. Go ahead, Win. What do you got to say about the Valve caching thing?
I don't really think the Valve caching thing was a really big deal. And I feel really bad for saying that, because we mocked Sony for losing all of your credit card details, and we mocked somebody else for losing all of your credit card details and your shipping address and things like that. But the Valve situation was a little different. So what happened was, for about an hour or so, about 34,000 accounts, basically web pages that should not have been cached, were cached. And so what that means is that like when Valve servers render a page, in this case the account information and payment pages, that's going to be different for every person, obviously, because every person's account page is different. Well, somebody messed up a configuration, and so what ended up happening is if you went to your account page and then the next person to go to their account page got somebody else's account page because it hit cache, meaning that it was cached in memory and the web server didn't actually have to render your own specific unique page. The reason that happened is because Valve was being denial of service, and it was a really, really crazy attack. They had to provision a little bit more extra space. They were Johnny on the spot dealing with that. But
even
the
on
problem
Christmas.
is that, yeah, even on Christmas. But the problem is that there was some kind of a configuration error or something, and they rolled that out. And so it's the joke has kind of been, it's like, oh, Valve, with their one technical support person, they couldn't deal with that. But for me, because I have a little bit of experience with developer operations, DevOps basically, and deploying configurations and these kinds of things, anymore, the level of automation for these things is that one or two people orchestrate thousands upon thousands of servers, and you basically have to make a choice, which is how quick do you want to be able to deploy to your servers, or how tested do you want things to be for deploying to your servers. And a really good DevOps setup is going to, anytime you have a configuration change, is going to run it through some kind of validation testing. So it's like, okay, I've got a configuration change, I need to push it out to production. That kicks off a job in a staging environment, which is isolated, which is then going to run through a bunch of standardized tests. Sometimes there can be thousands of tests. I mean, I've worked on projects that actually have tens of thousands of tests that have to be asserted in the staging environment before that build is sort of signed off on. And so it's like, oh God, I've got to push this configuration change out. I got to do it right now. You hit that, if your DevOps process is that you need to go through the full validation, then you might be waiting on that a few hours to run through all of those tests. In this case, Valve was like, we're under DDoS, we got to roll it out now. And so one person probably made the configuration mistake, pushed it out, and accidentally turned on caching for the account services page. They're still going through the logs and they're still trying to figure it out to make sure, but no confidential information was leaked other than the last 4 digits of a credit card number, not the full credit card number. Some other details, I think the last 4 digits of people's phone numbers, if it's got Steam Guard, something like that. So it was not a severe information leak. In fact, only about 34,000 accounts were compromised, which is a drop in the bucket compared to the Sony PlayStation hacks. That said,
Well,
they probably
got
should have
credit
done
card
a
numbers and
little bit
everything in
more
that one.
testing for denial of service and gone through this already to be like, oh, what do we need to do, rather than sort of doing it by the cuff. I mean, it is not good that they were doing things, by the scruff of the neck on Christmas Day, but that's how it happened. And being very familiar, even with very enterprise DevOps setups, it really was not a huge mistake.
I've been looking at a lot of the screaming and hollering and yelling that was going on in regards to that, and oh my gosh, yeah, all these pages were whatever. I'm not sure what's worse, the fact that somebody screwed up while they had a gun pointed to their head. Basically, I mean, when you get a DDoS in a site like this, I mean, you've got it there. You've got the gun to head. You are sweating. You are freaking out because you know that if you screw up, it's going to take an hour to undo whatever you did. But at the same time, and that's what happened. They screwed up. They realized that it screwed up, and then they pulled the whole thing offline until they could figure out what the hell was going on. But while all this was happening, they were being DDoSed. And then you've got a whole slew of people out here going, oh my God, I saw someone's page. Here, look at this.
Putting it on Reddit and stuff. So people are posting other people's information, posting pictures of the cache stuff on Reddit. So
what's worse, the fact that Valve screwed up, or the fact that the response that the community did was post people's information on Reddit?
So we need to herd those guys into a room and flog them. We also, who the hell is going to DDoS? I mean, everyone knows. Of course, it's probably Lizard Squad or some idiots like that that are just sitting around being like, let's DDoS Valve on Christmas so no one can play their games. I don't have a life. That's what they sound like.
What I also think is kind of interesting is from my experience, when you start dealing with these distributed denial of service attacks, the coordination is either a bunch of people collaborating to do this, or it's a botnet. If it's a botnet, that means your damn computer's infected with something. It means you've been looking at something you probably shouldn't have, and it got infected with something that it shouldn't have, and now you're part of the problem. Just want to remember that.
All right, let's go ahead and talk about this. I don't know if I can handle this. Another Half-Life 3 conspiracy theory. I don't think I can handle it.
This is one of those things that is absolutely amazing. Not the conspiracy theory itself is fantastic.
I'm gonna let you do this. I can't handle these things.
I read through this and it was just one of those. I didn't even think twice about this when I started getting the mystery cards in my when I started buying stuff in the Steam sales for Christmas.
I guess we should preface it by saying what's going on and where the mystery came from. But apparently, you buy things, you get mystery cards in your Steam account.
when you bought something during the Steam sale, you got a mystery card, which was like the trading cards that you get on the Steam stuff. Now, somebody figured out that. If you were to go to the Steam website, not inside the client, but in the website, and you went to a couple of things, clicked on a few things, there were these little clues that were left laying around that led you to this North Pole no, I can never pronounce that damn word, especially not after I've been drinking whiskey. Anyway, we had to do this. There's all this other stuff going on, and everybody's like, "Is this Half-Life 3?" Yeah, noir.
Just French.
I don't speak French.
It's black.
There you go. But anyway, it doesn't
North
matter.
Pole black.
Anyway, so they figured that through these little processes that they've done to find out where this is going, and these keys and these hex codes and whatnot to lead you to certain pages, crossed with there was the xccr.com was a website that came online literally like 2-3 days after Half-Life 2 dropped 10 years ago.
This is worse than the Bilderberg conspiracy. I can't deal with this.
When all of this stuff happened, it went offline. Somebody found Half-Life 3 in a database, in the Steam database. There's a whole bunch of little things. It's like, everybody's so excited, and Source 2, and all this cool stuff. And how about when it comes out, it'll come out. And it's going to either be as amazing as we all hope it's going to be, or we're going to overhype ourselves to the point where it's going to be a big letdown.
Why do we even entertain this on the show?
Because
this damn Half-Life thing.
We've already said, look, Half-Life 3 can't come out unless it is the best game ever made. It can't.
Exactly.
Valve is making more money not doing games, running Steam, than they will ever make on Half-Life 3, unless Half-Life 3 is like as good as the new Star Wars. So, yeah.
I thought the new Star Wars was okay. It wasn't any Empire Strikes Back or anything, but it was okay.
Made me cry. The Star Wars, man, when the beginning happened and that scrolling text, it took me back to the part where I was let down by 1, 2, and 3.
I was pretty upset about the part where Jabba the Hutt eats Poe Dameron. Really upset about that.
You see, I don't know. When everybody else was watching Star Wars, I went and watched Krampus.
and
that was
sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm just going to talk about how crazy that movie was. Scary. It's not exactly. It's cute.
Andy Richter got Chinese takeout, and the Chinese it was lo mein, and they arranged the lo mein to be, and they used the rice paper and some other stuff, and they made it look like a Wookiee. And so he was like, "Man, the Star Wars, Chewbacca funeral scene was just awful." And then, like the next 7 comments from him was like, "Calm down, people. I haven't seen the movie. It's not a spoiler. I don't think that even happens in the movie. Just please, for the love of God, calm down."
I don't even know how he must have known that was going to happen because he predicted it perfectly.
Anyway, go watch movies. Be merry. Happy New Year. Blah, blah, blah.
2016, we should do this again on the Lunar New Year.
Yeah, when is that? Tomorrow?
I'm going to dress up as a dragon.
Yeah, Happy New Year, everybody, I guess.
Yeah, I guess. If that's what
play games.
If that's what you want, Happy New Year.
I'm going to bring in the new year. I'm going to play some games and might take a nap.
I'm going to go streaking in the living room. Don't come up there.
Yeah, I'm going to totally hide in my room and play a game.
All right, see you guys later. Talk on the forum. And don't forget the contest from ASRock. So pretty much it.
Don't forget the giveaway, because this little thing right here is the travel router. It's tiny, but it's also a Miracast adapter, which is really cool. The thing that I've discovered that I like doing with the Miracast adapter is using a hotel television as a second monitor. Yes, you can put the 30 to 42-inch television that's in your hotel room to good use as a second monitor for your computer. It's actually really cool.
Now that's how you do it. When I do this, I just pull the network cable out of the back of the TV, reverse engineer the IP address network that's operating inside the TV's like streaming service inside the hotel, get a faster internet connection that's provided to me, and then I just plug an HDMI cable directly into the television. And it's a 65-inch LG. It was an amazing experience when I was in Santa Monica.
All right, last thing I'm going to say tonight, guys. 2016 is going to be a more positive, better, less ridiculous year for us because we're going to have a place in an office, and it's going to get serious very soon. So,
and by less ridiculous, we mean more ridiculous.
Yes. We'll see you guys.
Toodles.